Hey, thanks for watching my video. Today we are going to scrub a caliper on a Ducati motorcycle. Um, Calipers on any motorcycle are about the same. Um, so, they all get dirty and nasty. This bike sat outside for quite some time. The calipers were actually full of cobwebs, so I just want to clean those out. You saw me spray the calipers down, but you did not see me spray WD-40 all over the brake pad. Um, if you're spraying down your caliper, do your best not to get any um, WD-40 or any kind of penetrating oil or anything on the brake pad surface itself. So I hosed down the caliper, and I'm just taking just a little scrub brush and just scrub some of the gunk that's off. And now I'm pulling the little clips that hold the brake pad pins in place. So make sure that you save these little brake pad clips, these little clips for the pins. If you lose one, you do not need to be riding this bike. If you do lose one though, don't run to Ducati to replace it. Those little clips can easily be had at your local hobby shop. They're the same clips that are used on like remote control cars to hold the body onto the frame. So they're like 4 for $1 or something like that at a hobby shop. So I got lucky. Whoever owned this bike before me did put EBC HH pads inside the calipers. So the bike has really low miles on it. So I'm not sure why they changed out the pads, but I'm glad they did. So I have a decent bike with good pads. Typically when I'm going through a bike like I am in all these videos for the 800 SS, I would buy new pads for the bike, but for right now I don't need to, so that saves me about $37 per side. And I'm just taking steel wool and I'm wiping down the back of the brake pad, and I make sure I get it smooth and everything from where the piston was resting on it, because I don't want to grab a handful of front brake and have my brake pads squeal, have the brake squeal. So the pads still look pretty good. They're serviceable. I can use them again and again. So I can probably get at least another 20,000 miles out of these brake pads before I need to replace them. This is the little retaining spring for your brake pads. So it's a good idea to get that clean. And again, I'm just taking a scrub brush. It's got some WD-40 on it, and I'm just scrubbing all that brake dust off of it and bringing it back to a nice little silver shine. So with that cleaned up, these are the pins. So your brake pads actually slide on these pins. And like I said, this bike's been sitting for a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip a pair of vice grips onto it, and I'm just going to rotate it around inside some steel wool, and that's going to smooth up any burrs or anything that's sticking out of these pins. And it'll allow those brake pads to slide a lot more freely on them. So as you can see, they came out black, and now they have more of a silver shine to them. Just from usage, the powder coating, kind of gets worn. Once the powder coating gets worn through, these pins will start to rust. And if whenever you're servicing your tires, changing out your tires, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and check out your brakes and make sure that these pins are clean and everything's moving freely on your brakes. So that part's done. So now we're going to look inside the caliper, and I'm going to spray down the pistons, and I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to scrub those pistons around the edges. because we want to get these as smooth as possible and make sure that they're clean. Your pistons have to slide in and out of a seal that keeps the brake fluid from flowing out of the um, caliper, out of the brake system. So we just want to make sure that these brake calipers are functioning properly and they are serviceable as well. Like I said, I'm just scrubbing off all the funk that's in there. When I bought the bike, it was covered in cobwebs. It was pretty dirty, so the brake calipers were dirty as well inside, pretty nasty, and probably have not been ever scrubbed out like this in the lifetime of the bike. So there we go. I got them cleaned up pretty good. I'm gonna wipe all that WD-40 out of there. It's okay to have a little bit of WD-40 residue in there. It's not going to really hurt anything. Once you start driving down the road and start using your brakes and heating up your brakes, the WD-40 will evaporate off of any surfaces that heat up. Your brakes, if you're using your brakes, they're going to heat up pretty good, so no worries there. So I almost got these all the way cleaned up, and I do plan on pressure washing this bike, so really any residue that's left is going to get washed off once I hose this bike down. The whole reason I took this bike apart, I just wanted to get the fairings off, but the fairing bolts, the 4 fairing bolts on the lower, they were just spinning freely, so I needed to remove the front wheel so I could get my hand in there to clip a pair of vice grips onto those bolts. So while I have the front end apart, I might as well service the brakes. So I put my brake pads back in, I put the retaining